There has been a major policy shift. The National Education Policy 2020 was a major milestone, and it's a very ambitious agenda, ambitious roadmap for reform. And there were a lot of progressive elements in that policy. First time there was a paradigm shift from teacher-focused learning to student-focused learning, and there is a greater emphasis on student choices and many other interesting things. For instance, hitherto there was so much focus on STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and first time the importance of arts was also discovered, and there is a paradigm shift from STEM to STEAM, and these earlier silos between science, arts, academic, co-curricular, extracurricular, vocational, and all those, the silos are slowly disappearing, and then the introduction of this 5+3+3+4 at the school level, because the school level is where the foundation is laid, and the from school there's a continuum between school to college to higher education, and so at the school level also several reforms are happening. And if you look at recently, there was a CBSE circular about learning in Indian languages, and like of course one multilingualism helps in cognitive development, but it has, for its implementation, it requires a lot of things like availability of textbooks and trained teachers, etc., etc. And it's not exclusively on like learning in Indian languages, but of course they should also have exposure to the English language. There should be some bridge courses for them, and we need to prepare global citizens as India becomes integrated more and more with the global economy. We need people to assume roles in multinational corporations, and we need students who have a range of with international exposure, with experience in working in a multicultural environment. So that way the national education policy was a major major policy change and a major game changer, but a lot depends on the implementation at the ground level, at the state level, district level, and other levels, and about the awareness of the policy, its contours, its constituent elements across all the stakeholders, and that is very critical for the success of the policy. Yes, Indian education system suffered from several drawbacks, or for many decades. Rote learning is of course one of them, and then there is a tuition system where the parents send their children for extra coaching outside the school system, and then there is the whole host of edtech industry which is coming up. When you talk about the state government's recent decision to move away from NEP, my only observation is that for a long, this policy was discussed, debated, and there was a consultations held across the country before NEP was eventually adopted in 2020. and there were a consultation with state governments, consultation with teachers, consultation with parents and other stakeholders, and it was a product of several years of consultations, and there are many good elements in that. You talked about experiential learning. Yes, in fact, today, if students have access to information through Google and other online materials available to them, and the classroom, the architecture has changed, the learning has changed, and today the new generation, or what you call Generation G, have access to plenty of information, and so in classroom, the learning has to be restructured. It's not just information transfer from teacher to students. It has to become experiential learning with the teacher as a facilitator, with the teacher as a gone are the days where there's a class of 60 students with a teacher on a pedestal, and there is a one-to-many learning. And in here, the experiential learning, according to some experts, must count for 70% of the entire learning, and with the 20% coming from peer-to-peer learning with information sharing across students, and maybe 10% through the informational route, that is a transfer of information from teacher to student. So ideally the classroom, the architecture has to change, the classroom dynamics has to change, and with the teacher acting as a facilitator. And so going back to your earlier question, the couple of years back, there was a lot of pressure on the educational system, on the colleges and university to embrace NEP, and in a quick time they were given a very steep deadline, and they had to move from 3-year to 4-year system. The curriculum was changed, etc. And then there are many interesting elements. Supposing you have like any state government has a reservation to let's say some elements which they feel relate to let's say Hindutva agenda or the center rightist agenda. They can leave out only those elements out, and then have the remaining good elements. For instance, why would anybody have objection to the move from rote learning to experiential learning, or the paradigm shift from STEM to STEAM, or a paradigm shift from teacher directed learning to student directed learning, where student is the focus, students' choices matter. There is a system of major and minors where student chooses whether he will club mathematics with music, or geography with ethics, or business with what you call data analytics. So the student should be the one. So there are this academic bank of credits which provides this flexi learning, anytime, anywhere learning, where a student can take a gap year, move out of the system and travel, and then get back into the system and pursue at the student's own what you call desire. And so this is a very good, so there are many elements within the NEP which can be what you call used. For instance, why throw baby with the bath water? And education can be needs to be depoliticized. It must be seen, it is such a important part of human resource development, and regardless of the government in position or power, we need to see it. There should be some continuity in terms of policies, in terms of program practices, for the benefit of everybody. Or else, you will be sowing seeds for confusion, you'll be sowing seeds for doubts. Like, so there is a doubt in the parents' mind what will happen, or in the students' minds about the policy changes. And my own view is that all the good elements of NEP should be retained, and then if you are uncomfortable with say 5% or 10% of the policy relating to, let's say, emphasis on which in their personal view feel is advancing a rightist agenda or a particular political party's agenda, that can be kept away and not en bloc throw away the policy, and you can tweak it to 5 to 10%. See, state, like in the Constitution of India, in the scheme of things that we have adopted, there is a 7th schedule, there is a list of subjects which purely are in the union list, and some are in the state list, some are in the concurrent list. And there are some subjects which are in the concurrent list where both states and the union have the together can do. But my earlier point was that since NEP is a product of consultations across countrywide consultations across stakeholders, and then like development, policy development takes time. So over 2 years, 3 years, it was developed, and then so why there are some good elements in that. And there are good elements. For example, there are many students who are looking to join US universities, and US universities require 4 years of undergrad education. So if there is a shift from 3 to 4 year, and then so it's a good thing where somebody can get a foundational base here, and which will equip them for taking higher education in US, which gives them a good traction in getting admission. So suddenly there are many elements like that which are there, and the emphasis on liberal education, the emphasis on experiential learning, the emphasis on STEAM, and emphasis on many other aspects, so those are all good, and we should use those good features, and education is being an important constituent of human resource development, and very critical for our social transformation, economic transformation, and political transformation, and for reaping the demographic dividend, for becoming a $5 trillion economy. Today there is a prediction that we are going to be the third major economy in the world, and then soon by 2070 it is predicted that we will become second largest economy in the world. For all those, that economy requires trained, skilled manpower, and that can come only through education. And education being so paramount, it needs to be depoliticized, it needs to be nurtured with great care. Investments should happen. If you look at Australia and China, the most of the education is in the state sector, where state funds education. And then for long there had been promises about 6% of GDP on education, but it hasn't happened for various reasons. Maybe the national priorities are different, but some countries had invested on education and research, for example China, and prospered. And today there's a lot of cutting edge research going on in China, and it's set to overtake US in some of those research publications, etc. So that is all will be useful to the country eventually. And so that we need to invest more as a country on education, health, and other such parameters in the long-term growth, in the long-term interests of the country. Okay, if textbooks, I know.
Basic thing for education, it starts from there.
Yeah, So politics is there everywhere. We can't wish away. But there are some sectors like national security. For example, if India is threatened, let's say, by a two-front war or something, I mean, when all people should come together and it should be kept beyond partisan considerations, etc. Sports again, so education. There are some sectors which should be beyond politics and. Sorry, what's your question again? And I just got.
You made a very valid point about depoliticizing education sector and the need for continuity in education sector.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, independent of parties, governments keep changing the basics of learning itself, textbooks.
Yeah, textbooks had for long been subject matter of controversy. For example, history, the way it is written, with whose perspective, and so it's if somebody is uncomfortable with some particular portions of history, and they can remove those portions, and but frequent changes like knee-jerk reactions will not help matters. For example, can anyone do away with the entire medieval India and with just just like after a particular period, and straight away you can come to the. So it's there, and it's there available, and you can access it. Information today, you can't censor any information. It's all available. You may remove it from textbook. You may not teach it, but it is available in the open. And these textbooks also need to be factual. It's very interesting. Like Tipu Sultan from it can be what you call a freedom fighter, depending on where you are coming from, your ideological leaning, or he can be what you call a traitor, he can be what you call a religious fanatic, and so there is a whole, this is such a diverse thing, and about depending on one's own ideological, he fought the British, of course, he resisted British, and there are some who say he helped in some construction of some temples also. So, but people, every party has its own agenda. They want to come into power. They cater to a particular constituency. There can be nothing right or wrong in this. So they have their own what you call. They have to get the votes, and they have to what you call appeal to the people, and they have to but in that process often textbooks end up in the crossfire. Absolutely, and it should be left to the experts, and it should be factual. It should be not be removed from because we are preparing the future generation of leaders, and if they are what you call trained well, if they are educated well, and if they have the right attitudes, if they have the right knowledge and skills, that's better for the country. But if they are polarized, if they are indoctrinated, if they are some seeds of division are sown into their minds, then forever you are jeopardizing the country's future. If you look at the UNESCO Constitution, it says wars begin in the minds of men, and it is there the fight should happen for the seeds of peace should be sown in the minds. So and that way the school level, the preschool level, the school level, the primary, secondary level, all are very important areas where right textbooks, right knowledge. Unfortunately, even one finds that there's a polarization in the academia as well, among the student community as well, and there are leanings to the right, left, and the university campuses have become the spaces for contestation, and the classrooms have become spaces for contestation. I wasn't part of that. I wouldn't know what the others, my colleagues had told. But this is my personal view. If but I'm not aware of what I haven't got the minutes of that meeting, or but if they had consulted, and so my my own what you call point is that we must have continuity. Last year there was a what you call mad rush for implementation, where people were not prepared, the curriculum was not ready, the institutions were not ready. So it was and suddenly within a year later you can't just do a flip-flop. And this education is such a very critical area, and where you are playing with the students' lives, the students, and particularly when a policy has many positive features, so why do away the entire one? Why not embrace a lot of positive features and do away only with some portions which you are uncomfortable with? That could be 5%, that could be 1% as well also. Yeah.
So
Why?
like in your circle, maybe if you're speaking to other vice chancellors also from other universities, was that an opinion that they also had, that they shouldn't do away with the entire policy, they should just like remove parts of it that they
I guess so, because what happened, because many of them were part of the earlier consultations before it was implemented, and so then I guess because nobody would what you call mind emphasis on experiential learning. Nobody would mind movement from STEM to STEAM. Nobody would mind other choice-based credit system or academic bank of credits, flexi learning, and many other interesting things are there. Unfortunately, education indeed has been touched in the last 5 to 10 years, and very pronounced way. In fact, earlier, what happened, it was there, but it was not that pronounced. For instance, if you see some unrest on some campuses, the ones which are what you call very reputed ones, and then you see the whole debate on appointment of chancellor, the governor as a chancellor, how it should be replaced by the chief minister as a chancellor. There are many other issues where one wishes only truly experts, technocrats, or the education is become even the leaders of the higher education system, including the vice-chancellor appointments at many places have become controversial, and they led to the so because as head of that institution, the vice-chancellors have a very critical role in directing, in leading, coordinating towards the right path. And but when you have a wrong person appointed through dubious means, then you are compromising with the quality of higher education. So there is a in some, so that way education indeed has become a space for politics, and particularly in the last 10-15 years, and in the ad world, as they say, the fight is for the eyeballs, and here also the battle is for the minds of people, to get the what you call to win them over, and then particularly the youth. There's a lot of there are many new voters have come in, and there's a greater appeal for winning them to their. I started off as a part of the Indian Statistical Service. After my master's in statistics from University of Madras, I joined the Indian Statistical Service. I worked there for 3 years. My first post was in Bengaluru. I was the regional assistant director for National Sample Survey Organization, which conducts the socio-economic survey, which what you call measures the poverty line. Then there is industrial statistics about the industrial data. Then there is agricultural statistics about the crop yield, and there is a price surveys for price indices. consumer price index, etc. Thereafter, I took civil service examination, qualified, and joined the Indian Information Service. I was the spokesman for Dr. Manmohan Singh for about 6 years or 5 years, 3 years in the Ministry of Finance when all the economic reforms were launched, and then 2 years when he was Prime Minister in UPA 1. I was also working with Dr. Rajnath Singh and Nitish Kumar for a brief while. I moved to National Human Rights Commission as the spokesman when the commission was formed. Then later on, I took an advanced degree in human rights from London as a British Chevening scholar. And then I branched off from mass communication to research, then became a director of research at the NHRC. Then when OP Jindal Global University was being established in Sonipat, I took voluntary retirement from government, moved there as a founding faculty member, and I worked there for 11 years. I initially started off as a director for the Center for Human Rights Studies, then later became registrar. My experience in government, both in the human rights, has helped me a great deal in steering higher educational institutions. For instance, in the OP Jindal Global University also, there were many questions. How do you handle things? Like, for example, what is the purpose of education? It should make us a better human beings. How does one conduct with another human being? How does one see another human being as full of dignity, regardless of gender, race, caste, sexual orientation, etc., etc. So all my training in human rights helped me adopt appropriate policies while steering a higher education institution. And today the OP Jindal Global University is among the top 650 in the QS World University ranking. Its law school is among top 70 in the world. It achieved many interesting things in a very short span of time. And all these, you require enlightened leadership. You require a proper direction. The students have a lot of energies. Students have a lot of issues. You need to guide them properly. You need to channelize their energies properly. And so the training, if somebody has a right attitude, right orientation, right this thing, that helps. So when my training in human rights allowed me in the what you call rules about the freedom of speech and expression. So the famous French philosopher who said, I may not agree with you, but I will uphold your right to put forth your opinion. So there's even allowing plurality of views, allowing all these are helpful. So even in my earlier institution, we hosted Seshadri Chari, one hand. We also hosted people from left, so people from right as well as left, both. So there were faculty members who had a rightist leaning, there were faculty members who had leftist leaning, there were faculty members who had a center. And so we tried to balance all instead of just doing one. So everybody should get, the students particularly should get exposure to all strands of views so that they can make their own informed opinion, their own opinions. Yeah. I worked for 2 years twice I worked with PMO. One was in the year 2000 with Atal Bihari Vajpayee when he was PM. That was for about 6 months. And then I got a call from Justice J.S. Verma, former Chief Justice of India, to join the Human Rights Commission. So I left PMO and went there. So during the 6 months, it was quite an interesting period. And there was an Indian Airlines flight that was hijacked. And then there was many controversies. So the 6-7 days when the hijack drama unfolded, I was there. handling the media, it's quite a lot of many interesting things happened. And recently I had a chance to review Abhishek Chaudhary's book on Vajpayee. When I read the book, I was reminded of my own personal experiences, but I consciously kept away my own personal opinions, and I wrote the book review in terms of what the book contained. And second was with Dr. Manmohan Singh between 2005 and 7 in UPA 1, and a very interesting time again when there was India shifted closer to US, and then Indo-US civil nuclear cooperation happened, and then India slowly became it was invited to G8 as an observer, and it totally started occupying the center table in global this thing. The world started respecting India, and so I had a chance to accompany him on two G8 summit, one at St. Petersburg in Russia, and then one at Heidelberg in Germany. And so he was a very interesting person and workaholic. I have immense respect for him. And when people ask him, he used to say, used to tell media persons, he would interact with them either on flight or in Vigyan Bhavan once in 6 months or once in a year. And so I remember one observation of Dr. Manmohan Singh. He said, you may not judge me this thing, but history would judge me better. Yeah. So that's what he would. So the period which he was PM, this is what he would say. And he like my job involved moving with him wherever he went, and like he was in charge of. He would have several cabinet meetings, cabinet committee on infrastructure, cabinet committee on economic affairs, cabinet committee on political affairs, so many meetings. And he did a great job in UPA 1, but UPA 2 he had constraints, of course, you know that. And yeah. A very interesting question. Actually, COVID pandemic, there is a lull, but now the students, movement to the best universities has gone to pre-COVID levels, and so it's ultimately about the value of the degree. If you get a degree from Oxford, Harvard, Yale, Columbia, it will open employment doors automatically. So if our degree ought to have a similar value, in case if student were to hear, you want to have the students back in the country and study, we have to benchmark ourselves against the best in the world, improve the teaching, learning, the pedagogy, create better research facilities, laboratories, invest money, and then bring, the US universities have a huge endowments. We need to strike a balance between overly commercialization, and at the same time the fee should be such it will motivate an entrepreneur or edupreneur to come forward, invest in education and open. We need institutions, because the public institutions being what they are, either through lack of autonomy, lack of funding, or lack of initiative, many of them which had a high status once upon a time are declining. The state itself is unable to invest much. So today you find 2/3 of higher education institutions in the private sector, and the public ones contributing to only 1/3. And so you, while coming to the fee, it should not go to the one extreme of total commercialization. At the same time, you should not deter somebody from coming forward. It should be worthwhile for somebody to come forward and put money. And I have told you, to start a university, you require at least some 100 to 300 crores of rupees. And if you really calculate the rate of return, it would be, and through only fee revenue, it could be a long time, maybe 20 years, where they may make a profit. In 5 years' time or 7 years' time, if the institution does well, they may meet the operating expenditure with the staff salaries and other maintenance and other costs. But to recover the money on the land and buildings is not going to be easy. And so we need to have this thing like one should not charge some fancy. And I understand, I have been a parent. I've sent my daughters to school, and when I studied, my fee in the post-graduation was 400 rupees. It was Madras University, and I also got a scholarship, Lions International Merit Scholarship. And my entire education from first standard to the masters, and my quarterly fee payment to my daughter, who went to Delhi Public School, Noida, which was lesser than other schools, little lesser than other public schools, was about some 30,000 per quarter. And it was quite a lot. But today I believe there are schools in Bangalore which charge some 10 lakh also per annum. And so it's about, there are partly affordability of parents, partly parents' aspiration for good education. So we need to strike a balance, as I said. Education should not be commercialized. At the same time, education should allow, because government is withdrawing from many sectors. It is not able to invest. Our country requires private participation, and that the private participant or the private entrepreneur should see value in coming forward and putting money in education. It's a very complex question. It's not just a system versus student. You imagine from a student angle, like he's spending part of the time in institution, and there are other, like he spent part of the time at hostel or at home. And so if some student is forced to what you call take extreme measures, there are many reasons. It's a very complex thing. I'll tell you. First, the foundational value system, like which gives some self-confidence to the student. So, like in the schooling system itself, you are not what you call inculcated, imbued the person with the right the courage and other values, and that taking an extreme step is not the option. That we have not taught life skills. Education is not just information, it is just like preparing them for life. So right from school level, we need to, Vivekananda talked about man-making education, character-forming education. So this is education. So again, teachers need to discipline. Students are at an impressionable age. Quite often I have myself gone where when I enter the classroom, all the students are chit-chatting, which is there's a noise level is of a particular high level. And but one can be firm without being harsh. And one can be, but students, are undergoing multiple things. There's a lot of social media, there's a peer pressure, there is a drug addiction, there's an online addiction. There are so many things which are going on. This generation is caught with the need for instant gratification, like be it alcohol, be it other these things. So there are relationship issues. There are breakups, and even at the school level, at the college level. And so it's just not the system, interaction between educational system versus the student. There are too many things happening in a young person's mind. So so only thing is that mentor-mentee system should be work. It should not be there only on paper. Every institution should have counselors, and then not only that, there should be some peer support also should be there. There should be community. For example, students should support fellow students, and then the students should be given this thing that in case of any trouble, there is a professional help. You can knock on the counselor or reach out to somebody. And so there are many things. What I mean, it's not an easy question in the sense that the teachers who are teaching a particular class need to be cognizant about who is missing classes regularly. If somebody is missed 2-3 classes consecutively, and if somebody's academic performance is going down, they should notice it. They should engage with them, and there should be a effective mentor-mentee system. And like a teacher, being besides teaching, is also a part counselor. And so besides parents, it's the teachers who are in constant interaction with the student. And so other thing is that we need to inculcate life skills, particularly perseverance, the hard work, courage, and other skills. This is a very, very complex issue, and there is a competition for marks, there is a rat race, there is a ranks, there is a IIT, JEE. If somebody doesn't crack the exam, the future, people invest from 3-4 years of coaching this thing. There's a lot of money. They go to quota, spend lakhs of rupees, and then what will the student do? Like I told you about my students' film on Death by Grades. The middle class families' entire dreams are linked to the success or grades of that student. And if that person doesn't get not in the top 2,000 ranks, he doesn't get into IIT. What about his future? And so we need to lot of things need to change. That you may fail, but there is an alternative when you open to you. You may fail once, but you may succeed next time. So that kind of everything will come through education only. Right education, solid education, right from school level, about self-belief, about confidence, self-confidence. Industry academia collaboration has been talked about long, but industry has not made enough steps towards academia, or the vice versa also. The academia remained in its silo. I can talk about my own experience of my institution, where we have collaborated. For instance, the Mu Sigma is the world's largest pure play data analytics firm based out of Bengaluru. The RV University, Mu Sigma have come together to offer a joint BSc program in decision sciences, where it will be curriculum is jointly prepared, the syllabus will be jointly taught, where there is a 1-year industry apprenticeship with Mu Sigma, and also they work on practical life problems of Fortune 500 companies. We are closely working with Kotak Bank, other banks, to see that our business school curriculum meets the requirements of industry. Because right now, when students graduate, they again have to undergo 6 months of training to prepare for jobs. So we want to understand the needs of the industry. So we are working very closely with many industry organizations, and then we are trying to see how our curriculum is attuned to the but there is a lot more that can be done, because what happened, whatever education has to lead to a destination, it has to lead to somebody should get a job. And that is the purpose, and that's where if there is a gap, if whatever, if they both don't talk to each other, then industry keeps crying that the person is not employable and they need to interview 100 people in order to get 2 persons. So and then both need to understand each other. What we have done is that every school has a what you call a board of studies. It has industry representatives, but each of our schools have a lot of industry representatives, and they decide the curriculum. They decide what is to be taught, so that the curriculum is updated regular basis. So but there's a lot more that needs to be done across the educational spectrum, but we are trying to do it. We have a CXO series whereby Swiggy COO, other top COOs come to our campus on a regular basis. They give a talk. For example, COVID pandemic, suddenly people stopped ordering from Swiggy. And Swiggy thought of a strategy about contactless delivery. They leave something outside. So then they turned around. So that story, the turnaround story of Swiggy is explained to our students. It's like learning from the COOs. So we have instituted several things, like one is through board of studies, and then through COOs lecture series, and then we have partnerships, placements. Today we have about 115 plus collaborations across with computer sector, or IFB Goa, or Zero Labs, or Titan Industries. So there are and banks, financial institutions, Zerodha, Go Digit, and then Kotak. Recently we signed MOUs with SIDBI, Small Industries Development Bank of India. CMD came to our campus, and they are setting up a center for entrepreneurship at our university. And similarly, Pay Nearby came to our campus, the founder, and again signed an MOU so that our students can be on internships and placements. So these are some of the ways, but the full potential of the industry academia collaboration has not been tapped yet. There's some more.
I think it's an ongoing process.
The ongoing, both industry needs to walk several steps, academia also needs to talk, so that both remain relevant and yeah. The current student is far more privileged, with far more means available at his command, and with a range of choices. But then the student also has a challenges, because when I studied, there was only one career. I just get into the career, retire at the end of 40, 50 years, and that's it. Here, a student has, the skills are getting obsolete, and every now and then he has to reinvent, and then he should become, he should learn the art of learning. Learning how to learn is the key, and so that he has to reinvent and change the career midstream if need be. And so today there are opportunities by way of ChatGPT and many other things, and then there are challenges also. The student is at a very interesting arena where earlier when I was a student, this multidisciplinary thing was not there. I went to a particular discipline and that was the discipline alone. And today the student can take electives from other schools and take minor also from other schools. And so there is a greater canvas, greater thing open to the student, and greater information, new opportunities. And if you look at the Indian student alone, like that's to say Amrit Kal, India is poised for a great milestones are on the anvil. They say 2047 there's going to be a major change, and then a huge second largest economy, or even 2070 it was second largest. So there are many interesting things are about to happen. There's some interesting times, technological changes, other along with the challenges as well, and very interesting time to be a student.